Meet Bob. Bob is happy. Well, kind of. He's just missing one thing. There it is. Now he's happy. Yeah, almost. If he just had, yes. Now he is definitely wait, never mind. Okay, yeah, now I think he's happy. Yeah, okay, now he is definitely happy. Well, wait a second. No. Oh, okay, yeah. That would help. Find out what Bob and maybe you are missing.
Man, we have some struggles sometimes, don't we? Like trying to figure out how to be happy, trying to figure out which me that we're supposed to be. You know, if you're here for the first time or two, I want you to know something about this group of people. We're not a group of people who used to be people like you. And we're not a group of people who tolerate people like you. And we're not a group of people who try to change or fix people like you. We're just a group of people like you, trying to figure out the best way that we can live, the me that we're supposed to be. And that's really what's going on in our lives right today as we're talking about starting out a new year, is how do we become the me that God intended for me to be? Because the truth is, every one of us have some mess in our life, right? We all have some stories, some parts of our story that we'd like to go back and like edit and change. Some things we'd like to go back and I'd like to just like select it and delete it and forget it ever happened. You know, we're all in the same boat. We all have regrets and stuff in our stories that we'd like to figure out. And most of it comes from us trying to be the me that we're supposed to be or fit into certain situations, because every person in this room has multiple me syndrome, right? We all have multiple me syndrome. Multiple me syndrome is really just this tension that we have in our lives where we're trying to be the right version of me to fit into a specific situation. We all have the pretend me, right? We all have the me that we pretend to be. This struggle of who I'll be, like the fake it till you make it me. Like I don't want to be a mom of a preschooler, but I'm a mom of a preschooler and I'm going to fake it until I make it or whatever. You know, like I was just talking with a mom outside and I said, hey, when you register your kids, here's brand new folks. And so when you register your kids, they'll take them back there, they give you this little sticker and you can't claim any kid that's not your own, and nobody can claim your kid unless you fill out a special sticker that says strangers can take my kid home. That'd be fine. And some of you are like, I never got that sticker. Can I change that out? But like you get the fake it till you make it me, you know, that kind of like I'll be somebody, I'll figure it out, right? Then you got the other me that's like the me others think I should be. I saw a country song this week. It's an older song. It's a beautiful song, and it's about this lady wrote it about her mom, and she said she's always somebody's something. Isn't that how moms, you're thinking this is a Mother's Day message? But like, this is how moms feel, like you're always somebody's something, right? You're always somebody's mother, somebody's lover, somebody's friend, somebody's this. But the only thing she's never is alone. You know, is by herself, all by alone, and just give me 5 minutes to myself. You got the me that other people think you should be. And some of us guys especially, but ladies as well, we go to work and we got to be a whole different me. We got to be a me that they think I should be, stronger, clearer, understanding, gentle, not gentle, whatever it is. And you've got to figure out how to be the work me. And then you got to figure out how to turn the work me off so that you can come home and have people actually like you at your house. You know, like you come home and you take the work me back to the house and you're like, you're being a little directive. I don't work for you, you know, like, and then you get hit with something heavy and you can't fire her. Right? Like, but like, there's always this struggle or this tension that the me I pretend to be, or the me I need to be over here, or the me I should be when I'm this way, or there's this other one. There's this tension that comes in, and I see it in this verse, Romans chapter 12. It says, don't conform any longer, don't copy the behaviors or the patterns of this world, right? Don't do the things that everybody else does, but let God transform you into a new person by changing your mind, the way that you think. You know, we can't force this change to come in from the outside. We can't fake it until I make it. We can't just figure out, we keep constantly changing and conforming to new places, because transformation never comes from confirmation. It never comes from conforming into a mold. It always comes from inside of us. Then there's this tension, isn't it? We showed up on Sunday morning, and you've got this tension, even right this minute you feel it. I got to be the me that I think I should be. Like I'm pretending to be the me that I should be. Like I told you before about the magic concrete at my church growing up. My parents would fight all the way to church, and as soon as their feet touched the concrete, they were happy. They call everybody brother and sister, you know. Hey, it's so good to see you. How was your week? Oh, it's fantastic. Who are these people, right? Like some of you have the magic. We have it here at Journey. Some of you are like, it's really for real. It's magic. As soon as I get here, I forget I have problems, right? Or you get this whole like tension that you show up at church and you're like, I gotta be the me that I think I should be for, you know, because I don't want to let everybody know that I got this problem at home. I don't want to let everybody know that my marriage is struggling. I don't want everybody to know that I really don't like my children. I don't want to let everybody. Some of you are laughing like you're not the only one in the world who doesn't like their kids, right? We love them. We just don't like them, right? So I love them and I like them. Sorry, kids. I'll be the one that admits it out loud, okay? But here's the thing that we struggle with. We feel like we got to put on the plastic me, and that's the way church is built. I mean, you would wish that the church was known for Jesus. You would wish that the church was known for redemption. You'd wish that the church was known for its forgiveness or its love, but it's not. It's known for its plastic, fake facades, right? It's stained glass on the outside and it's trash on the inside. It's known because we pretend like we should be something that we're not. We're pretend that we're not loved if we don't measure up somehow. I love how Brennan Manning, one of the best authors of our time, I think, a phenomenal thinker. He said this: don't should all over yourselves. Like, just in case you didn't hear it correctly, make sure that we get it up there. Like, don't should all over yourself, right? Like don't go through life going, oh, I should do this. I got to measure up over here. Or I should do that. I got to measure up over there. I just want to make sure you heard it right. So we don't, say, I don't understand what happened. Where did that come from? But we live like the life that we think we should live. This time of year is really big for this, isn't it? We're like, okay, it's a new year. I got to hit the reset button. And there's two kinds of people in this world. Now, this is a trick that preachers and speakers use on you. They tell you there's two kinds of people in this world. Everybody listens to that because they want to find out which of the two people there are, okay? You're one of two kinds of people. You're the people who make New Year's resolutions, right? Or you're people who don't make them, right? And that was not exactly deep, I know. Like some of you are like, oh, I make New Year's resolutions every year. I put them down, I try, I fail miserably, and then February happens, right? But then there are the other people who don't make New Year's resolutions. Now, if you're a person who does not make New Year's resolutions, that's generally speaking me. There are two kinds of you. Okay, I'll get you to listen again. There are two kinds of people who don't make, there are people who don't because they just like forget or don't think about it or whatever, and that's generally me. Or there are the people who are like, no, because I'm not going to be that guy who makes all the New Year's resolutions and then doesn't live up to them. Some of you are like, oh, that's me for real. I know how to say, I'm not going to go to the gym until February. I'm making a new second quarter, really, me. Like you make a monthly resolution instead of a New Year's resolution, right? But the thing is, we do those things, and we have a tendency to push away from them, don't we? Because we're like, man, I don't want to do this. But I don't want you to miss this opportunity. This is a great opportunity, really, to step into a new year and to kind of begin anew looking at you. Not the me you pretend to be, not the me that you think you should measure up somehow, not the me you got to put the fake faces on or fit into certain situations. But this is the one that doesn't get enough attention in our life. Is the me that you were intended to be. Like, not what makes you happy, not what fills out all the things, but the me inside that you were intended to be. How is it that we live a life, literally go about becoming the kind of person who lives out a life flourishing in the Spirit? That's a big deal. Walking and understanding, and not having to do the right things so that you measure up, because that's not what we're talking about. But how is it we go about becoming the kind of person who lives in this stuff that we talk about when we get up early and drag our kids and our family to church and we show up? And you guys should get extra points for coming to first service instead of waiting for second service. That's a big deal. And so I want us to understand, before we get into this for the next few weeks, and this is unusual, it's a little bit of a longer series for us. We don't normally do a series this long. but because I have attention deficit and sometimes I get bored and I want to move on. But we're going to stick with this one for a minute because it's important for us to understand. But before we get there, we've got to address the problems that you and I face every day when we go to become something new, when we go to follow Jesus, when we go to make these resolutions or we stand up. The first one is the more concerned that you are with your own fulfillment, the less fulfilled you'll be. Isn't that what we do? We like set out to kind of figure out how to be happy, like Bob in the story, right? It's like, oh, if I only had a car, okay, and if I only had a wife, no, I want a different wife. I want a dog first, and then I want a wife, and then I want kids, and then you go, wait a minute. At some point, there's just not enough stuff to fulfill me. And the reality of it is, the truth of our lives is that there is no way that we can fulfill our own desires. I want you to know something. God is gracious to us in not letting us find our own desires easily fulfilled. I mean, wouldn't it be terrible of God to just allow us to find fulfillment in a bunch of other stuff that was eventually going to leave us disappointed? He lets us go, but it's not easy, right? And I got to be honest with you, I understand, especially after the last couple of years of hanging out with folks and understanding the last 10 years, 8 or 10 years of working with folks in different places and their brokenness. I can understand the power of addiction in our lives. I get it. You know why I get it? Because it's really hard to give up something that almost works. It's really hard not to dive headlong into something that almost fixes it. But the truth is, the more that we endeavor, the more we pursue getting filled up from something, the harder it is to see it happen. Fulfillment isn't something that we pursue. I love the words of Matthew chapter 5. It's the Beatitudes. I'm just going to read them to you. You can follow along. It says, God blesses those who are poor in spirit and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. He blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. And God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. You know what's amazing about when we read those? Is that we're just talking about how we experience fulfillment, and none of it is about finding fulfillment. He talks about how God blesses. He wants desperately to pour out his blessings on us. He wants us to experience wholeness. I mean, I don't know if there's any single person who would say, no, I don't want God to bless me. It clearly says God blesses these things, but he doesn't talk about how you pursue it. God blesses those people who figure out the right amount of fun to have and the right amount of this to have and the right amount of this. God blesses those people who figure out that you can have this many drinks and not that many because it's too many. God blesses the people who use natural this or that. Like, he doesn't say that stuff, right? Blesses those who are spiritually poor and recognize they need him. It's the same verses that we found and we place the priority on in Celebrate Recovery. What I love about Celebrate Recovery is Celebrate Recovery is not for a few of those people who have like a drug or alcohol problem. And it's not really just for people who have a hurt or a habit or a hang-up. Celebrate Recovery is a discipleship program. It really just helps people walk with Jesus. And when you walk with Jesus, he heals the brokenness in us, regardless of what that story is. We got lots of folks, 60, 70 people coming on Thursday nights. You know what I love about it is the average Celebrate Recovery across the country is about 8 or 10 people. But I love the fact that we've made a place where it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. And so people show up because they love being a part of an environment where they're loved despite what their mess is. And we're starting to realize that fulfillment is not about what you do. It's about what's done in you. It's about recognizing that you're spiritually poor and you have a desperate need for God, that he loves you and that he wants to be everything that you need. And pursuing Jesus as fulfillment is what allows us to be fulfilled. It's kind of a weird tension, isn't it? It's a strange peace that the more you pursue fulfillment, the less you'll be fulfilled. So our problems with becoming the real me that we're intended to be is sometimes we're trying to be fulfilled, or the second problem is we're often too focused on what we accomplish rather than what we're becoming. You feel this tension, I do. 45 years old. Sometimes when I kind of get in kind of like my feels, as my kids call it, all up in my feels, I start going, oh man, I thought we'd have accomplished more than this at this point in my life. I thought I'd get that done. I thought I'd be better at this. I didn't think I'd ever weigh this much. I had to buy the dreaded XXX large shirt because it's not because I gained that much weight. It's because these friggin' clothes manufacturers refuse to recognize what a double extra large should look like. Like, you don't cut double extra large shirts that do this, okay? That's not how this works. You make them thinner, but make them do this, okay? It's easier. If they would just cut this section, I don't understand it. Sorry, I'm ranting. But there's a part of us, breathe. Some people, you go buy a double extra shirt, and I can't even give me a break. All right. But here's the deal. We struggle sometimes with what we haven't accomplished yet, right? We're like, man, I thought by now we'd have a bigger house. I thought by now we'd do this. I thought by this point in my life, I wouldn't have to worry about making the money and the ends meet, right? I thought by this part in my life that there would be about the amount of month as there is money, There's this struggle, isn't it? When we're trying to become the me we think we're intended to be, so often like we're distracted by the discouragement that comes like, hey, I haven't finished this and I haven't done that. We're so focused on what we're doing or we're accomplishing rather than what we're becoming. That's what we're talking about. It's who we're becoming. That's the real beauty. That's the real value of following Jesus, is really who we're becoming is the most amazing part of the story. I love Ephesians chapter 2. It says this, for you and I are God's masterpiece. How often do you really think of yourself that way? I mean, probably not real often. How often do you think of yourself as God's masterpiece, right? He's created us anew in Christ Jesus, and so that we can do the good things that he planned for us long ago. Another translation says, we are God's workmanship. We're God's creation. We're God's project. Here's the thing that we struggle with a lot of times, and the truth that should build a tension in there is that you're not your own handiwork. You're not to blame when it comes to what you accomplish or don't accomplish. You're not your own handiwork. Your life is not your project. Your life is God's project. So it's a lot like if we were to kind of start something and you give it away and somebody else does it. Here, how about this one? Have you ever gotten into one of these? Your kid has a science project to do, right? And it's their science project to do, right? But why are you the one staying up all night building a volcano, right? And why are they not even in the house? They're out goofing off, right? And you're making headers, right? And you're making the hypothesis. Some of you who have kids that are grown and gone out of the house, you're like, I love those days, right? It's like we do this all the time. We take someone else's work and we do the work. They don't get the benefit. I don't need this benefit, right? I don't care how a volcano works. And you secretly want to tell them that nobody cares how a volcano works, right? Except for people who are geologists. And if you're not going to become a geologist, who cares about this science project, right? But sorry, I'm ranting again. But the problem is that this is not your project. We become frustrated when we work on our lives because our lives are not ours to work on. You can't control it. You can't fix it. You can't manipulate it. You can't do it. You're powerless to control your own tendency to mess life up, right? Because your life is not your project. Your life is God's project. Your life, my life, is God's masterpiece. It's God's plan. It's God's project to work out and for us to accomplish the things that he has for you to accomplish. Our job, our responsibility is to follow Jesus. In following Jesus, not only do we find our purpose, we find our mission. We find the things that we were supposed to accomplish. We find the task that he had preordained for us to do. Understand something. When we miss out on the fact that we're so focused. So focused. Wow, that's a word to miss, isn't it? Right? We're so focused on the fact that we're trying to do the next thing we want to do, that we never accomplish the things that we were intended to do. That's our problem. Your life is not your project. Your life is God's project. Problem that we have when we're trying to become the person we want to be, we're trying to endeavor it on our own, isn't this the case? So often our New Year's resolutions or our efforts or whatever they are, aren't they just a way to make life work without Jesus? I want to get that promotion this year. I want to get to this point in my business this year. I want my marriage to go better this year, right? I want to lose some weight. I want to get some muscle tone. I want to get back down to my playing weight, pre-birth weight, whatever it is, right? Like you want to get down to something. You want to get to a place. Isn't just a lot of times our way to make life work without Jesus? For so long, I was raised in a church where I was taught over and over again that sin, the definition of sin, was missing the mark. Like there was something I was supposed to measure up to, right? Like there was some level that I was supposed to be able to accomplish on my own. And that every time I missed that, right, that was sin. I don't know about you, but I spent most of my life missing the mark, right? I mean, like sometimes I didn't know where there was a mark. I wasn't even get close enough to get a good eyeball on it, right? Like I wasn't even measuring up in any way, shape, or form. So I always felt like, well, I mean, just like the system would produce, right? I always felt like I didn't measure up. Like God didn't really love me because I was constantly missing the mark, right? Man, what a lame definition of sin. What sin is, at the end of the day, is us trying to make life work without Jesus. It's us manufacturing things that are done without any regard to faith. They're not just trying to make us better and look better and feel better and feel like we've accomplished more. And more times than not, isn't that where our New Year's resolutions are centered? In our efforts to become a new year, new me, right? Like, isn't that how it works? We're just trying to figure out another way to make life work without Jesus. Man, I wonder what would happen if we walked with Jesus in this. What if we invited Jesus into this mess? What if we understood that life isn't something we go find, it's something that's given to us? I love this verse, John 10:10. We use this a lot. If you've been around here for any length of time, you've seen this verse in 100 different colors now, right? Because I use it all the time. The thief, Satan, comes to steal and kill and destroy. He says, my purpose, Jesus speaking, my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. I always talk about this verse in terms of the first person in it. I always talk about it in terms of the enemy, his purpose, steal, kill, and destroy. So if you hear something that's stolen, killed, or destroyed, then that's the enemy's fault or the enemy's effort. If your joy is missing, it's the enemy. If you have something that's been stolen from you, it's the enemy, right? But we sometimes forget the second half of that. Jesus said, my purpose is to give them life. When we try to make life work without Jesus, isn't that the exact opposite of what Jesus came to do? When we try to figure out how to make life work, how to become the best version of me that I can come up with myself, how to get the promotions, how to do all the right things. I'm not saying there's anything bad about that stuff, right? There's absolutely some great stuff about it. But if you're doing those things to fulfill what's inside, man, you've got some serious problems you're going to face. I just want to warn you about them. Because Jesus came to give you life, not hide it so you could find it. And that's the problem. We feel like Jesus has hidden life somewhere. Maybe there's life in drugs. Well, I'll try that for a while. No, that didn't work. Maybe there's life in this. No, there's not. Maybe there's life in this. I thought maybe I'd find life in this woman, and then I realized, no, I don't. That's not working. Maybe it's this dog. No, maybe it's this other woman or whatever it is. And we just keep searching for one thing after another, hoping that eventually we'll find life. We call it happiness, but really what we want is what we're designed to have. The very life that Jesus comes to give us. He didn't hide it from you. He told you exactly where you can find it. And it's found in him. The invitation of life change is really about receiving life from Jesus, not pursuing it or finding it anywhere else. He didn't hide it from you in some job. He didn't hide it from you in a relationship. He didn't bury it for you under the porch. He didn't put it in a certain house or a certain status or a certain kind of car. He told you exactly where you could find it. The life that he came to give you, he clearly offers in him. So choose to walk with him. Choose to find life in him. That's what we're talking about for the next few weeks together. Talk about how it is that we find a life and flourish in it. How do we experience the abundant life that Jesus came to give us? Because our life should be worked out or should be recognized by the love of God and the peace of God. When we experience the love that God has for us and we express the love that God has for us to others, when we experience the peace that God has for us and we can see things that are going on in our life, that's what marks the life of a believer, when we experience the love of God and when we experience the peace of God. So I just want to give you a couple of things that you can do this week that can help you kind of evaluate where you're currently at. You can gauge your spiritual temperature, your spiritual condition with just 2 questions this week. And I just want you to ask them. You can ask them in your mind right now, but as this week unfolds, watch and see how this goes out. The first one is, are you growing more easily discouraged these days? As you experience your life, are you easily discouraged? Or you feel defeated often? Do you constantly feel like you're fighting to overcome this battle and then the next battle? And it just seems like every time you get up, you get knocked down. Are you growing more easily discouraged these days? If you're really experiencing the love of God, discouragement doesn't find its way around your life very much. You find joy, peace, happiness, right? You find those things, not a plastic outside shell, but something that just can't be dismissed. If you're experiencing discouragement a lot, then you're not really experiencing joy a lot. That's really the question. We have to figure out, how is it we find joy? How is it we find life and love and fulfillment? So are you finding yourself being discouraged more often? The second one, similar. Are you finding yourself more irritable these days? Are you struggling with you just seem like you're always got a fuse that's this long, right? When we're finding the peace that God offers us, when we are seeing the fruits of the Spirit, the fruits of walking with Jesus, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. When we experience those things, it's a lot harder to get us to upset the apple cart and get irritated. These aren't accusations, because isn't that how we feel as a church sometimes? Like, are you feeling more irritable and then you're feeling this elbow from your spouse, right? That's not it. Well, we're not getting at like this, like you're a terrible person if you're irritable. You're not a terrible person if you're discouraged. You're not. You're normal. It's just the indications that we've been figuring out life without Jesus. And it's not an accusation to push you away. It's an invitation to pull you in. There's some great things involved. There's a couple of things I want to give you as kind of next steps, okay? Use those questions this week. As this week kind of rolls on, Tuesday, Wednesday comes around, and you find yourself discouraged or you find yourself irritable, just go, hey, there's another time. Man, I didn't realize how often that was popping up. I'm more irritated. I'm more this, I'm more that. Just be aware. Feel yourself in the situations you're in this week. And ask yourself, like, am I becoming more irritable? Am I becoming more discouraged? If you're a reader, here's the next step for you. I don't know how many of you are readers or listeners. If you're a listener, you can grab an audiobook. But John Ortberg wrote a book, I can't remember what it's called. I wrote it down. Hold on a minute. It's called The Me I Was Meant to Be, Becoming the Best Version of You. Okay? It's by John Ortberg. I'm basing this whole series off of it. I read it. It's a great book. But The Me I Was Meant to Be, Becoming God's Best Version of You. If you just Google John Ortberg, pick that book up, it'll help you a ton just walking through some of the deeper parts of it. We'll talk about kind of the surface stuff, but I think you'll really enjoy picking that book up. And the third thing I would do is tell you is that this series is for you. I mean, we built this series out so that you and I could figure out the very best ways to walk with Jesus, to see him move in our life, not to jump through one more religious hoop, check 6 boxes and go, yes, I showed up to all the weeks, or I went to this, or I went to that. I just want you to sincerely just pursue Jesus for 6 weeks. If you pursue Jesus in this for 6 weeks, I'll promise you this. I'll give you your money back. Of course, it's free, but I'll give you your money back if it doesn't work, because this is powerful stuff. So we're going to talk about what it means to walk with Jesus in a lot of different areas of our life, relationships, our time, all the stuff that's really going on in our life. And I just want to encourage you. There's some power and substantial stuff here if we'll walk in it. Not if you know it, because who cares if you know it, right? Knowing it's just a list of junk. If you walk in it, it matters. Let's pray together, and then we'll wrap things up. Jesus, we're just thankful that you love us like this. You love us enough to die for us, to lead us, to invite us to follow you, to live inside of us with your Holy Spirit, to redeem us, to make us new, to give us life. Those aren't things, none of which we can do on our own. We sure try, but Jesus, we're thankful that you love us enough to offer those things on our behalf, to offer them to us, and not to hide them from us. But that you just